Everything feels expensive right now, and a lot of times when I order stuff, I'm not that impressed when I actually get it. So I want to make a video about making simple, nice things out of materials that can be free or at least very cheap. I had chunks of these leftover 6x12 fir beams and a pair of rocks that I collected. Now, if you were to buy these rocks, you can typically get them for about 35 cents a pound, which means that these two would cost about $12 combined. I was scrolling around on Instagram and saw this really cool light, and I bought it. And once I took it apart, I realized that if I could drill a big circular hole into a rock, I could recess this whole light fixture into the stone. I like to use my angle grinder for drilling stones whenever possible, and I use these hole saws or core bits, and they don't remove the entire circle. They cut a circle, and then they cut a smaller circle inside of it, and then I use a hammer and chisel just to chip away these weakened pieces. The trick to being cost efficient when working with stone is to let the hammer and chisel do the most work. They're the most primitive tools, and I think this hammer cost me $8 or $9 from Harbor Freight, and the chisels are a little bit less than that. Now, you don't want to shatter the entire stone and undo your work, so you want to kind of aim the chisel at the thinnest parts. And I like doing this while listening to an audiobook. Then I hear a little tip tap from the hammer, then maybe I grind a little bit more. In about 10 to 15 minutes, I get a nice recessed circular hole. Now I need a place for the cord to go through, and it has a little control panel attached to it, plus an old school USB plug. So this hole does need to be fairly good size for all of that infrastructure to slide through. A faster way to do this that I think would be a little bit less elegant would be just to cut a channel with a tile cutting saw blade instead of drilling the hole. And that way you could just push the cord into that channel. We're not robots and our aim isn't always perfect. So my hole didn't quite line up exactly with the other hole, but it was close enough to where a hammer and chisel could do the rest of the work. There we go. Well. And let's test it to see if we got all the way through. Yep, looks good. I'm going to use this bigger stone as the base for the lamp, and I want it to stand up vertically, which means I need to pick a side to cut off to serve as its base. To hold stones steady, I like to use a little box of sand. It's not a perfect system for clamping them down, but it's fast and pretty effective. I'm cutting into the stone using a 4.5-inch tile blade from Home Depot. This cost me about $18. I'm pretty experienced with an angle grinder, so I probably don't do it enough, but it is smart to constantly switch the handles for the particular cut that you're doing. I get a little lazy with this sometimes and put my wrists in awkward positions, but if you're new to the tool, you probably should really pay attention and make sure your body isn't aligned with the blade or the debris coming out of it, and really take advantage of the 3 different holes so that you can move that handle. The rock is too big to cut all the way through with just an angle grinder, so my goal is just to get a rough cut around the perimeter and then use a hammer to chip away parts of it and then eventually break the whole piece off. This leaves me with a flat-ish bottom, but I can again just use this tile cutting blade to kind of carve down the pieces, put it against a flat board, see how wobbly it is, carve down a little bit more until I get a nice stable base. Now there are attachments in the $45 to $55 range that are really designed for flattening, and once you get the bulk removed, these are pretty handy for just grinding flat surfaces. So I want the lamp to kind of work like a little stone snowman. So I'm using the diameter of the blade to make these curved cuts into the top, and I'm just cutting it so that it looks like a starfish, or as my friends would say, a butthole. Now you can just stick your chisel in, give it a little pounding, and turn it into a little volcano-shaped depression. I've done some previous videos where I carve stone bowls, and this is the basic process that I use. And you can do a lot with just a plain, inexpensive tile cutting blade on an angle grinder. So I got a nice depression, and now I had to make a decision about where the cord's going to go. And I decided to go straight down through the stone and then out through the bottom. So this means I got a lot of drilling to do with the core bits. Now once again, a channel down the side would have saved me some time and money on the core bits because I could just do that all with the tile cutting blade. These core bits are pretty durable, but heat is the enemy, and that's why you see me periodically dipping them into water or adding a little water to the hole, and that just helps them last a lot longer. Even when the circular cutting surface of the core bit is worn out, I still find use for them using the edges of them, and here I am using this edge of this core bit to kind of carve that interior volcano shape just to get a better fit. Now there are tools specifically meant for carving out curved interiors. This is a ball grinding bit that fits onto an extension shaft, and this allowed me to get a really precise fit between the two stones. So let's hear a word from our sponsor, Surfshark, before we get on to the wood portion and installing the light.
I love the internet. I get to share my ideas here. I use it to learn all about materials and making techniques. But there is a dark side of being online, and that's why I use the sponsor for this video, Surfshark. Surfshark protects me from sketchy Wi-Fi when I travel. It protects me from phishing emails by sending alerts if my data has been leaked, and Surfshark uses an email scam checker to protect me against these phishing attacks. Surfshark VPN ensures that my data is encrypted, making my online activity a lot harder to track. Protection and privacy are my main reasons for using Surfshark, but their ad blocker improves quality of life, as well as I save money with its protection against targeted price discrimination. Yeah, that's a thing now. Look it up.
So go to surfshark.com/homemademodern or use code homemademodern at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN.
All right, back to the video.
This extension shaft also lets me get way deeper into the hole using the core bit. So the core bits can kind of bottom out two ways. Either the rock plug is hitting the inside top of it, or the housing of the angle grinder is bumping into the rock itself. The extension shaft gives me more clearance between the angle grinder arbor and the hole. It took me about 45 minutes to burrow all the way through the rock. I would recommend a shorter rock for beginners, or to try the method where you just cut the channel in the side. Speaking of channels, here's me cutting a little channel in the underside of the rock base, and when the cord comes through, it'll just fit right into this little groove. The bottom of the rock hole is pretty gnarly, and I could grind this out, but even if I grind it out, it's hard to stick things to rocks, unless of course you're using epoxy. And so I'm going to flatten out the bottom by filling it in with Quikrete anchoring epoxy. This stuff is super strong. It bonds really well to rocks and to concrete, and it mixes in the tube that you just put into a caulking gun. And I don't want to glue the light fixture directly to the rock, just because, electronic things break. So I just want to create a surface that I can use a magnet with some double stick tape. And I don't need to put the magnet into the rock, I just need to put a little bit of steel, so I just got a big washer. And you don't need to do this, but since I have the epoxy out already, I took some scrap leather and just squirted a little bit onto the underside of the rock, and then just plopped it right down to the leather. This is the fast setting kind of this epoxy, so I only needed about 4 hours for it to cure, and then I could just cut away the excess with my knife. So this magnet cost me about $1.25, and I'm just using some 3M industrial double stick tape to stick it right to the back of the light fixture. And now the light can magnet on to the washer. I got this light off of Amazon. It cost me about 20 bucks, and it came on a little tripod, which I just unscrewed so I could just use the good parts. It has some color settings, and I really like the orange one. I think it's perfect for kind of a moody accent light. And there's even a remote control for it as well. For the Douglas fir beams, I just want to make a very simple bench that could also double as a coffee table. These things are 5.5 inches thick, so I can almost cut through all the way with 2 passes of the circular saw, but it leaves just a little bit of wood in between. You can finish off with a handsaw, but I just use my reciprocating saw. I want to take advantage of the chunkiness of these pieces of wood and do a connection that doesn't require any glue or fasteners, just gravity. So I start by cutting the outside lines with my blade set to about 1.5 inches deep. Then I just make a whole bunch of cuts in between those 2 original lines, and then take a hammer and chisel and chip out all the pieces. You don't even need to use the chisel all the time. You can just bang them out. Now if you run into a knot like the way I did, it gets a little bit tougher because that's the harder wood. So I just made a few more passes with the circular saw and then scraped away with the chisel. Because it's just going to sit together with gravity, I don't need these fits to be perfect. So I erred on the side of looseness, but with how short this table is, not an issue. I'm not the biggest fan of multi-tools in general, but I got one and this is a reasonable application for it. But honestly, I prefer using the chisel. It just feels a little more satisfying, particularly if you have sharp chisels, which I don't. One of the nice things about working with beams this thick is that you can fit your whole sander to flatten out the bottom. And I'm just using 60 grit sandpaper here, real coarse stuff. And I'm just getting all the dirt and grime and splinters off of the outside surface of these beams. So when wood sits outside, it shrinks, and when it shrinks, it doesn't all shrink evenly. And so a lot of the knots were kind of sticking out farther than the rest of the wood. And so I got my angle grinder and I put one of the wood carving blades on it, and I just carved down a few of the high spots. I kind of like the idea of the top being just a little bit wavy and irregular, so no need to flatten it out. Originally I thought I would just burn one side of it and kind of have it be like an ombre fade from blackened wood to raw natural wood, but after I started, I just really liked what the flame was doing to the wood. You see, the torches burn the softer parts faster than it does the harder parts, which are represented with the kind of darker orange streaks in the surface. So not only am I going to get this nice blackened effect, actually going to get more texture to the surface of the wood itself. Once you char it a little bit, it's really easy to sand out or just wire brush these soft charred places away, and the hardwood stays there, and it feels real smooth to the touch, almost like bone. And even though I'm sanding this by hand, the charred stuff comes off so easy. This really doesn't take that long. I just kind of folded the sandpaper up on the edge, just kind of like sanded the crevices. And every once in a while, I just take a wet rag and kind of wipe away the char. And you definitely see the wood get browner as you remove some of the charred surface with the sandpaper. But it's definitely darker and way more three-dimensional. A cheap wire brush like they use for a grill or for welding also works really well. But it does make the wood a little bit more orange streaky because those wires will kind of scratch the bottom of the kind of depressions that you sand away. This was a really fun and satisfying process, and every once in a while I'd accidentally chip a little bit too much. I just go back in with the torch, blacken it up, do a little more touch-up sanding. And I also discovered like a normal sponge with a scrubbing pad that you, like the kind you just use for washing dishes. You can actually scrub away a lot of the char too, and it almost works just like sandpaper. I used damp rags to wash off all the loose soot and char, and then I sealed everything with Rubio Monocoat in black. Now, that's an expensive finish, so using a cheaper oil-based wood finish would be just fine, but I want to go a little bit darker. Buying furniture pieces made out of real materials like stone and wood is just expensive. I mean, even mass-produced stuff out of particle board with laminate can be pretty pricey. It's not practical for everyone to make all of their furniture, but it's really nice if you can make a few statement pieces to mix in with the mass-produced stuff. And pieces like these are relatively easy to make. I've been thinking more about making things that come apart into pieces so they're easy to move. And for me, I think about it like cooking. I'm not going to cook every meal at home, but it's also not practical to eat every meal at a restaurant. I want some balance between the two, and I have a lot of fun making these little design experiments. I will be teaching some in-person workshops this summer. Haven't really done a lot of these before, but I thought it might be a nice supplement in addition to the videos. And if you're interested, look for links to more information about these workshops. And thanks for watching. Bye.